me the address, I plug it in their USDA system, and it will tell me if it's eligible or not. If it's eligible, then the next step is I plug in the income limit, and then once it matches, I go, here's your pre-approval, Mag, here's your pre-approval, Ms. Buyer, and you guys tell me we get accepted or not. Remember, we wanna make it easier for you, okay? Yes, I know
I
you
have
have.
a question, so, I'm sorry, I can.
No, that's
there
okay,
was a
no,
traffic.
but the good thing is you're here, so.
So, my question is, you have to be employed, with the company for 2 years?
No, you don't have to. You, give me a scenario, and I'll give you.
Okay, so my husband, he
Mhm.
is employed with, a company for more than 2 years.
Okay,
And I just started last year.
Okay.
So mine is over a year.
so let me add, so then my question to you would be, were you working with another company the previous year?
Medical leave.
Yeah, okay, so medical leave, so what we do is, I ask you for the documentation,
Mhm.
we put an explanation letter, they'll still run they wanna see tax returns, making sure that, okay, everything matches, and you're okay.
Okay,
So that would be more like an FHA world
mhm,
versus conventional,
okay.
okay? So yeah, you can. So remember guys, I always tell clients, okay, I know sometimes, you know, we're human and we don't, like, man, it's like going to the dentist, right? And telling your dentist, well, I have a cavity and I'm embarrassed about it, right? Or, you know, my tooth hurts, but he's gonna know that I don't really brush my teeth the way he told me. What I want you to know is that don't feel ashamed, don't be, you know, tell me. Guys, I've gone through every negative thing that could happen to anybody. I was young and been in the business for 21 years. Hey, I got hit hard and I learned from it, and that's why I can talk to you about experiences. So I always tell my clients, hey, tell me everything good, everything bad, and let me balance it out for you so we can put a good loan together for the bank. Because a good loan officer is gonna do everything in-house before they even, now if you catch me on a good day where I'm not busy, I'll jump on your file. But I always let you know that in case I'm busy, I'll give you like 2 days turnaround, you know, I always deliver on those 2 days or the 1 day. But don't ever be afraid to tell me the whole scenario. Because once I run your credit, trust me, if I don't know it, I'd rather find out than the bank. Because I'll give you a scenario, we were already at docs. Docs means that the next step is to go to the title company and sign your paperwork so you can become a homeowner. We were at docs, and the client forgot to tell me that they bought, and this is years ago, they bought a BMW. See? And it wasn't just a 3 Series, I mean, it was a very expensive BMW, and it just threw off all the numbers. So we didn't cancel the loan, we just looked for another program. We got it done, but it delayed about maybe 2-3 weeks. But I always say, whatever last minute little changes, even if you're thinking, should I buy a refrigerator? Should I go to Home Depot? I'm ready to move. Ask me, not that I'm gonna tell you what to do, but I'm gonna recommend it. And even Maggie will tell you, don't pour any credit. Once you guys are approved, be patient. Be patient. And right now, between November and February, if you're ready to go, take advantage of this market right now, this season. Why? Because like 50-60% of buyers that started this year, they're gonna take a break because of the holidays. Well, guess what? We don't take breaks because we know that if a buyer's interested in buying a house, they can take advantage right now. And guess what? If there's any homes for sale, it's because they really wanna sell their house, right? So that's our job as professionals, is to educate you, hold you by your hand, guide you, recommend, and give you the goods, the bads, but we want you to make that decision because at the time that you sign your paperwork, everything that Maggie and I said, we want it on paper. Yes, ma'am.
Can you
Sure.
have multiple loans? 'Cause
You-
I know you said,
Mm-hmm.
what was it? The down payment assistant didn't work under, was it
FHA, it works for either FHA or convention. Okay, so we're saying, yeah, the down payment assistant doesn't work under the 184.
And that's the only one?
Uh-huh.
But can you do like 180, can you have multiple ones working with you, or is it just one?
Like, for example, if you're looking for a house, you're pre-approved with all different options, is that what you're saying?
So, okay, so if I did
Mhm.
conventional,
Okay,
but I fall up under and qualify under the 184, can I do both?
you can, well, at time of closing or time of docs, you have to choose which one you want. Yeah.
So you can't have multiple.
Now, if you are a homeowner already, let's say we close with the 184 and then tomorrow you go, you know what, I wanna go buy another house, Then you can do a conventional, you can do an FHA. I mean, you can buy your house with different types of programs.
Cause I know the city programs, if you move into certain cities,
Yeah, I
can
mean,
you have that with these?
you can, but with the city programs, like Tracy I mean, everyone has it. One of the reasons why I don't really talk about the city assistance programs is because they will restrict you to different areas. So we do, I mean, we work with the city of Tracy, Stockton, I mean, anywhere you want, Lathrop, every city has an assistance program. But you're restricted to only a certain area. Now, if you're okay with that area, hey, go for it. But usually I always go, you know what, I'd rather do the down payment assistance, cause there's no restrictions. You can buy anywhere in California, as long as you move into the house. Now what happens, okay, you bought the house, you were planning to live there for 30 years and job relocation or the commute is too big, it's been only a year, you wanna go buy another house cause you don't wanna sell it, can you get another loan? Yeah, you can. Yes, you can. Okay, all right, so, any questions?
Oh, I have a
Yes,
question. What about disputes on your credit?
Thank you, okay, so, Maggie's on, man, she's on the roll. Okay, so, and that's so important because let's say that you tell Maggie, I'm gonna buy in 6 months, well, guess what? If you're thinking of buying between now and 2019, run your credit now. Because you'll be surprised at what you thought you paid off, or you had a judgment, whatever it is, sometimes those guys have to have 180 days, the creditors have 180 days to figure out what they're gonna do. They already paid them, but guess what, they're like, we'll apply the rule to ourselves. So, run your credit. So what happens if you have a dispute? What's a dispute? It's when you say, hey, I don't owe you $1,000, I'm gonna dispute it. Well, the banks don't like that. If you have a dispute account that has not been resolved and you wanna buy a house, you have to undispute the verbiage. Because what happens when you dispute, it freezes the account. So no longer helps your credit, it's not going up or down. So always remember that, if you're gonna dispute an account, or you have a collection account, if it's a medical collection, the banks don't care, okay? But if it's a collection account with, the biggest ones I see here in the San Joaquin County, and it's not even your fault, it's most of the time it's AT&T or Comcast, it's because, and everybody does it, so once your contract is over, hey mom, can you be the one now on the new account? So they forget to close one out and put that it's been paid. So because they're so busy, the customer service, that they forget to do this part of the job and they open this and then they leave this open. So they think that, so it's thinking that, oh, we gotta charge you. So those accounts, as long as they're not more than $500 balance, you're okay. Anything over that, you wanna kinda settle or get a letter saying, hey, we made a mistake, or yeah, we settled for less. That's fine too. We can settle for less, yes.
What if you've had something that was totally removed off? Well, they said that
Yeah,
it's
but
going
you
to
have,
be removed.
okay, you have a letter?
I do.
Perfect. That's,
So,
and here's a cool thing, thank you, man, because you started this and Alicia finished it. So the credit agency that we use is called Service First, and they're awesome. I used to use Creco, and oh my God, we were there for hours on the phone trying to, just one little thing. With these ladies, they've been doing this for 30 plus years. They own their own company. They're off Reading, the Shasta area, and you have that letter, 24 hours, I get a credit supplement. They go to the three credit bureaus within a week. I have a new credit report. Your credit goes up. I mean, they're that quick. I mean, they do all the legwork. Or sometimes they'll say, Orlando, I don't want to charge Alicia $50. If she does this and that, it'll come off. Or they may, hey, I'm busy, Rolando. Okay, I don't mind paying the $50. Just tell them to charge it, then we charge it. Okay, so our credit report agency, they're awesome. I mean, whatever little thing, and we also do credit repair. So let's say that we do FHA all the way to 580, by the way, 580 mid-score. 75% of banks don't even allow less than 600, but we go all the way down to 580. But what happens if you say, I want a better rate, and I need to get to 640? Well, then we can work with credit repair agency, and they'll tell us exactly what to do. I pass on that information, and I give you a time frame, and hopefully you did what we told you to do, and your score goes up, okay?
And one thing I want to
Yes.
point out with my clients, I always advise them, don't do anything at all to your credit without talking to the lender first.
Yes,
Because we have a lot of family and friends that know everything that,
Yeah.
is right to do in the business and give you all this good advice. But the lender is the one who is working for you to get your loan. And so listen to your lender, listen to your realtor,
yes,
okay? And if the lender tells you don't touch this, because they can tell you whether you need to pay something off or whether you need to just leave it alone. They can tell you that.
thank
So
you, man,
always
yes,
listen to your lender. And you may get several emails asking you to turn this in or turn that in. Don't get discouraged with that because they're trying to get you approved for your loan. Okay, so whatever the lender asks you to do, and that's why I say I don't do the loans. When you come to me as a client, I'll talk to you a little and get a little information from you. But my first thing is to send you to a lender that I think that, you can, you'll work well with their program. Because I do work with other lenders, and Rolando knows that. And I'm gonna send you to the one that I think that you will work well with. And once I send you to that lender, they're gonna take it over from there. And you won't come back to me until I get that pre-approval letter. And I have to have that pre-approval letter because you're gonna be out there looking at houses. You may go with or without one of us, and you see something that you want to buy and you wanna make an offer. I'm not gonna write an offer for you if I don't have a pre-approval letter, because that other agent is not going to look at your offer without the pre-approval letter. Because they're looking out for their client, which is the seller, and they want to make sure that you can, when they take that house off the market, that you are qualified to buy that house, that they don't take that house off the market for 15 or 20 days and then come back. I have to, ask them to cancel the deal because something went wrong with their loan. So that's why we have to get the money out of the way first, get your pre-approval letter. Once he gives me your pre-approval letter, because he's going to send me the same thing that he sends to you. Once I have that, then we can go out and start looking at houses. We won't go out and look at any houses until I have that letter. Okay? It's money in the bank. It's money in the
It's
bank.
true.
It's your check. It's your check telling that seller, I can buy your house. This house is $500,000. I can buy that house for $500,000. And usually buyers, I'm the same way. We look at these beautiful homes, 6 or 7 bedroom homes, and I really want that house. And you think that you can, get that house, and then when you get that letter, you qualify for a $300,000 home. That's disappointing. Okay, so that's why we want to get you approved for your loan first before we take you out shopping. When I first went into real estate, I was naive and zealous, and anybody that called me to take them out to look at a house, I would just take them all over Oakland looking at houses, and then, take them to the lender, and they couldn't qualify for what we were looking at. So it's a waste of time. I don't want to waste your time, and you don't want to waste my time. We don't want to waste anybody's time. So that's why we want to get you approved. You have your check saying that I can buy this house. So that's why we do first things first. After he gives us that letter, then Dale and I, we're glad to take you anywhere that you want to go, anywhere in California.
and I'm glad Maggie touched base on that, because at the end of the day, as professionals, we wanna make sure we invest your time. And once we give you hope, we don't wanna take that hope away from you.
Right.
We just wanna keep moving forward and being by your side and working together as a team. And one of the things that Maggie put here, sellers can also credit closing costs, yes. So the nice thing about Maggie with the buyers that we worked over time is that she's very in tune, okay, with the buyers. So she wants to know what's going on, and I'm always copying Maggie, or if that was your agent, in the email, so we're all on the same page. So can seller pay closing costs? Yes. We can do a combination. Let's say you're coming in with your own down payment, and that's all you have, then my job is to communicate that with Maggie. So when she writes up the contract, she puts that on the contract that, seller to credit so much money to cover for your closing costs. Or if she knows that the seller comes back to Maggie and says, we can only give this client, then my job is to go back to the bank and figure out a way to offset the closing costs for you, so you're only worrying about down payment, okay? So, I don't wanna take any more time, cause, I know we got, more information from Dale and Maggie, but I have my business cards here, my information, and Maggie's on the flyer. But any questions after, or even if you leave today, kind of, oh, I forgot myself, you can, if it's easier for you to email me, text me, or just call me. I'm very old school, so if you call me, awesome. You wanna come back to the office and meet here, even more, because I'm more of a, I'm a techie too, but I love the old school stuff where it was always face to face, you know, let's put the voice and the face together, okay? So, thank you guys for your time. I hope I didn't overwhelm you, but I didn't but I wanna appreciate, Maggie and Dale and, you guys for being here on a Saturday. So, anything I can do for you guys, my biggest thing is, if you're thinking about buying, even within 12 months or less, start now, because you wanna know, like what Maggie's saying, if you're driving and you're like, honey, look at the house, you wanna know you're pre-approved. Yes?
If we just got a recent, credit report?
I can work with that. The only thing is, we have to run our own credit because of the banks. That way, the reason why we have to run our own credit, and great question, Lisa, thank, is because that way, once I put it into the system, all the banks have it, and then I have you pre-approved with, sometimes I get you pre-approved with everybody, but if I find 2 or 3 programs that fit you best, those are the options, but we have to, I can use it and give you like a prequel, but what Maggie wants is a pre-approval. That means that when you write that offer, the seller's gonna call me and say, is that a prequel or is it pre-approved? Hey, I'll go out of my way for Maggie anytime. I'll say it for you, I'll lie, because I know that if I'm missing one condition, because I'm one of those loan officers that if I build that trust with you, and I'm like, can I have this by Monday? And you're like, yeah, I'm trusting you, and I tell Maggie, hey, this is what we're missing, but she told me that she's gonna bring it Monday, so yes, Mr. Seller and listing agent, yes, they're pre-approved. You know what I mean? So I go out of my way, don't worry about it. My job is to cover you. Remember, I'm not here to be like, oh, let me tell you all the horrible things about them. No. So yeah, I can work with your credit, but it was more like a prequel. But when I have you pre-approved, that means that the only thing I need is for Maggie to find your future house that you're gonna fall in love with. And then that way there's no headaches, no delays. And trust me, if you pull your credit, how long ago was it pulled?
Well, no, I got it from another lender.
Okay.
So I was told you can do 3.
Yeah, you can do 3 within 45 days.
Without
Yeah.
penalizing?
Exactly.
So I
Yeah.
did get it from another lender.
Okay.
A week ago.
Okay, I can work with that and kind of give you an idea that fits, or we can just run another credit and you're ready to go. And when I give you like Maggie said, once I give you a pre-approval, it's 100% green light, just go find your future house. Okay? Well, thank you guys, appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good information.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Would anyone like to take a restroom break before we go into the next segment? No? Okay.
Please.
Thank you. While we're waiting on Dale, one thing he brought up is that the listing agent is gonna call him. So you know that, when you write an offer on a property, that agent is gonna call your lender. That's why we have to send that, a letter to the listing agent when we write the contract. They're gonna call because they want to make sure that you are actually qualified to buy a house as well.
I have a question for you. Now, you said you can work with 2 lenders or 2 realtors?
Pardon me?
You said you can work with different lenders or you can work with different realtors? What?
I work with everyone, yeah.
No, I meant me for buying.
Oh, with you to
Uh-huh.
buy a house?
Mhm.
No, you wanna work with one lender and you wanna work with one realtor. Yeah, because, first of all, in the real estate industry, we don't cross each other up. And, that's what I'm gonna ask you, when you come to me to buy a house, I'm gonna ask you, do you have an agent? If you tell me that you have an agent, I'm not gonna work with you any further, because I don't steal clients. There are some that do it, but I don't. I don't steal clients from other agents. And if now you can bring your own lender. If you're satisfied with the lender that you have and you trust that lender, fine. But as far as you working with more than one agent, you don't want to do that. Okay, buyers do that to us all the time. They'll say that they're going to work with us, and then they go to an open house and they write the agent that's there will write the contract. That's not fair.
Okay.
I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's ethical. And if I know that you're working with another agent, I won't go any further with you. So I ask you up front, do you have an agent? And if you tell me that, because buyers do that, they'll go out and look at a lot of different houses and go to these developers. Another thing, if you want to look at a house in a new development, your agent has to go with you on the first visit. Otherwise, they won't pay us. You can take our business card with you and tell them that this is your agent, and then I can contact them. But if you go to a new development, make sure that you either take our business card with you or ask us to accompany you on the first visit. We don't have to accompany you on any other visits, but the first one we do, because developers don't really need us, they are there, they, built the property and they can sell their own. People just come to them. Okay, so we want to keep things on the up and up, ethical, Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, and this is Dale Cheng Jr.,
All
also
right,
known
so
as
just a quick
Day.
introduction.
Well, I'm a
Divulge
proud
my
mommy.
name. Anyway, if you can't tell already, I'm Margaret's son. I've been a licensed realtor since 2004, so about 14 years in the real estate industry. Never full-time, I've always done it part-time because I've always held multiple jobs. But here to help educate you all and answer any questions that we can. This presentation here that we're going to go through for a few minutes here is advantages, disadvantages of renting versus buying, right? And why you all should buy. We always encourage folks to be homeowners. There's a whole slew of benefits and advantages. So this is just a little bit of material to help educate you on some of those advantages. So first we'll start off with benefits of renting. The top reason for renting or an advantage is lower costs. So there's no property taxes or required insurance. And typically there's lower utility costs if you're living in an apartment. Renting a home, typically that's just like owning a home. You're paying all those water and garbage and electricity bills and cable and everything yourself. Another benefit is minimal responsibility for maintenance and repairs. So if there's a landlord, a property owner, typically those things are handled through that person. Sometimes if there's a good relationship between the tenant and the landlord or the owner, then repairs can be kind of worked out. I know I did that with some landlords in the past when I was renting, but that is one of the benefits, that there's minimal responsibility. There's less hassle to relocate. So if you're renting, you have a lease agreement, whether it's 6 months or month to month or a year, then there's less hassle. You can, folks can kind of get up and relocate without without being kind of stapled down to the location. In the industry that I'm in, supply chain, also a lot of folks that I work with like to rent versus buy because they move all over the place. One year they'll be in California, the next year they'll be in Michigan, the next year they'll be in Atlanta. So if you want to be very mobile, then renting is an advantage. So depending on one's financial situation or geographical commitment, maintaining lower monthly expenses or remaining mobile may be the best option. And that's about it as far as advantages for renting. The disadvantages for renting, no financial incentives, so there's no tax deductions. And then I'll get into some of that once we get into the advantages of being a homeowner. Regulations, so landlords and property owners have to permit any modifications or changes that you make to the property. Even if you want to get a satellite on for DirecTV, you have to have that permitted prior to making that modification. You can also be forced to move for any infractions to the contract. even pets, right? If the contract, the lease agreement says, hey, no pets allowed, and then the landlord finds out 2 months later that you have a pet in the property, they can force you to move. Or even if they decide to sell the property, they can say, hey, you know what? You've been here for a year, that was the lease agreement. We're going to sell this property next year, so you have to leave. So it doesn't provide much stability. There's no equity. So every dollar that you pay in rent, none of that goes to you. None of it increases your net worth. None of it increases your financial stability. Every single dollar of that rent goes towards paying off someone else's property. And they have renters to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to have this property. I want to pay this off. I want to gain all the equity and appreciation. Hey, can you rent this property from me so you can help me pay this off? And a lot of investors who own multiple properties are bought when the property value was really low are actually making incremental cash flow. So they may have bought a property back in 2011 when the market was, really at a downturn for say, $200,000, and they may have a mortgage of $1,000 a month. And they may be charging you at this point, $2,000 a month, for rent, and they're just, pocketing, they can pay off their mortgage, is paying it off and setting themselves up for retirement, and they're pocketing an extra $1,000 a month for, to pay off the home that they're living in. Instability, so it's subject to rent increases, lease modifications, inspections. Some inspections can be intrusive. They have to work with you to schedule it as a renter or anyone who is renting. But renters, they have to allow the property owner to have whatever inspections that they want to have. So California rent has increased. Just a little data fact here. California rent has increased by 1.4% year over since last year, and the current median rent right now is $2,750 for California. There's some areas that are much higher. The rent is above $3,000, and there's some areas that are a little bit lower, sub $1,500. And it was actually interesting for me. I was doing some data mining while I was putting this presentation together, and found out that California, 2017 to 2018, led the U.S. actually in highest rent increase. And then they put a list together of the top 20 cities in the U.S. that had the largest rent increases, and 11 of those cities were actually in California. So, throughout the entire U.S., we have 11 of the top 20 cities with the highest rent increases. And we also have the #1 city in California, which is actually Stockton, which was mind-boggling. I didn't know that. Because I hadn't dug into a lot of the rent increases, but Stockton actually had an over 11% increase since last year in rent.
Wow. I thought I saw that Stockton was one of the most affordable places to move in the Bay Area.
Well, it's affordable, but it was even more affordable last year.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the median rent in Stockton, I believe, is around $1,400 a month. Give or take $25 to $50. So if you're averaging, California at $2,750, then Stockton at sub $1,500, it's still more affordable.
Right.
But last year, I want to say it was under $1,100 a month. So.
One thing I want to say about renting, which I found from my different clients, is that they rented property and the landlord was not paying the mortgage, and a foreclosure notice was put on the door, and the tenant knew nothing at all about it. And the property was foreclosed, and the tenant had been paying their rent. They call it dirty hands. The tenant's paying their rent and the landlord doesn't pay the mortgage. They just pocket the money and then go and buy property somewhere else until the house is foreclosed on. So that's another danger of renting.
And this was a gross issue back in 2007 to 2010, when we had the economic downturn. When a lot of homeowners were walking away from their properties, what they would do is they would move out, rent the property, pocket all that cash, and they knew that they had about 10 months approximately to still own the property before it was actually foreclosed and seized. So what they would do is they would move out, rent the property, charge rent for 10 months, and then let that poor soul be evicted. So I know I had a couple of friends that were subject to that, moved into a house, and a year later they were kicked out because they received the notice of default. And instability. The rent prices are they're based on the economy and the way the market moves. So when the economy is down, then hey, rent is a little bit more favorable. It drops to be more affordable with the cost of living. But when the economy is up, then rent comes up like it did versus last year. And then actually in 2016, the data proved that there was actually 11% increase in California rent over the prior 3-year period. So from 2013 to 2016, rent had increased all of California average by over 11%. So huge disadvantage for rent because you may have 1 year where you structure your budget and your finances to paying a certain amount, and then once the lease agreement is over, if that property owner wants to increase that rent, then hey, now you're all of a sudden in a bind where you have to come up with a few extra $100 a month, or now you have to leave because you can't afford it, and that's unfortunate. Some of the benefits of home ownership. So first, financial incentives. So property taxes and mortgage insurance, mortgage interest. I'm sorry. Both of those costs are tax deductible. Typically, mortgage interest, that's based on your interest rate from your lender, and property taxes. They average in this for San Joaquin County right about 1.3% per year. It's paid twice per year, but you can have it also set up with your mortgage company to actually open a escrow account. They call it escrow account or an impound account, where the taxes are automatically taken out. You pay it monthly, so you don't have this huge expense of like $2,000, $3,000 every 6 months to pay to the state. But both of those costs. Would you like another water? Would anyone else like another water or a snack? Okay. But both of those costs are tax deductible, so it's a huge financial incentive. And typically with renting, most folks that are renting their properties, they try to have all of those expenses covered in that amount of rent. So they're getting a tax deductible on the rent that folks are paying them. They're paying their property taxes and they're getting the tax deductible on it. So huge advantage. Appreciation and equity. So your value increases as the home value increases. You pay yourself each month. So the principal, right, that is the amount of the loan that is going towards, paying off the property, right? So there's the principal, then there's the interest, and then there's the taxes and things like that. But the principal, when you pay against the principal, that is knocking down your loan balance. So every dollar that you pay towards principal, it's just like going into a savings account for